for the jiggle physics and beach volleyball games that were really more along the lines of just creepy voyeurism simulators, Dead or Alive was a really was a fighting game. Really darn good fighting game at that. First one came out on PlayStation and the Sega Saturn only in Japan, and was good. Second one was released first in the arcades, and then made its home console debut on the Sega Dreamcast. That's the game we'll be looking at today. So, is Dead or Alive 2 really worth the hype, or is it just also ran to the likes of Soul Calibur and Tekken? The gameplay has the various modes you would expect: arcade, time attack, survival, team battle and tag battle, and a versus mode. All things you would normally see. The roster is fairly small, but has legitimately defined characters with a storyline that I'm not going to try and explain here, but it's for the most part about like ninjas and assassins and really cool stuff actually. It's unlike other fighting games on the system like Street Fighter and Marvel vs. Capcom vs. SNK, and etc. This is a 3D fighting game, closer to more like Soul Calibur then, except without any weapons. One of the distinct defining characteristics of the Dead or Alive games, starting with 2, has been the environmental pitfalls, I guess you could say. Basically where if you are close enough to the edge of an area, and it's in most of the stages, you can knock the opponent onto the next level down. Some stages have 2 or 3 levels, and the opponent will take some amount of damage, could actually be KO'd, and then you'll jump down, your character will jump down, take no damage, and resume the fight from there. It's an interesting thing. This is one of the first big games to do it. A lot of 3D games had something similar to like a ring out, like Virtua Fighter, and actually the first Dead or Alive. And I think Soul Calibur did too. This was one of the first ones where the ring was not just the area you saw when you first started, like the match. Then the fighting is good. The Dead or Alive games have had this complicated, like, triangular rock paper scissors type of attack system, where like striking beats grappling, or like punches beat kicks, which beat grappling, and the grappling beats punches, or something like that. I'll show a picture. I'll probably have a picture like right now. And it goes by that instead of a long, complicated button press system. There are combos and special moves to pull off, but it's not as ridiculous as something like Street Fighter 2 ended up being. And as I said, the characters are varied. Each has their own individual story, as opposed to some other games which have pretty much no story. It's all based around this fighting tournament. Like pretty much every fighting game is based around a fighting tournament. And each character is going into it for one reason or another. Some characters are going to look for someone, or to get revenge on someone, or one character is going into it to become famous, and then her father goes into it to stop her from winning. Then Zack, the crazy guy who looks like Dennis Rodman, is going into it just to become rich. So each one has their own reasons for going into it, and they're all, each character has a relationship to another character in some way. Either, as I said, there was the father, and then the father of Tina, who actually played as, so you're probably gonna see a lot of her in here. Then there's like half the characters are related in this like ninja clan thing, which I never quite understood. Another thing that kind of is interesting, I'm not sure if it's good or bad necessarily, is that all the characters are voiced in Japanese in this game for their story cutscenes. Even the white characters from America are voiced in Japanese, which is kind of always throws me for a loop. It's like you're like from Texas. I don't understand that, but it's a Japanese developer, so Japanese. The gameplay itself, as I said, is fairly good. There's the tag and team modes are both fairly similar, except you can pull one trigger and tag in other characters or your teammates. Strangely, the CPU tags frequently sometimes. Like they'll like tag hit, and just go like on and on about that for like 2 minutes. It's weird. Now, to be honest, going at the very beginning, I talked about jiggle physics and the beach volleyball and stuff. This game does have jiggle. This game was known for its bouncing press. And well, if you go into the options menu and go down to age and change the age, you can change how much they jiggle. I don't know why that came out, why it's like that. It's not a really big difference, but it's technically there if you're really weird and into that. And also, what's with Japanese fighting games with blood types? They always show characters' blood types. I don't get it. But regardless. Back to the main question. Is Dead or Alive 2 better than Soul Calibur, which is the other big 3D fighting game on the Dreamcast? I'm inclined to say no, because I like the weapons-based combat of Soul Calibur. They're both fantastic games. They're both incredibly good-looking games, and not in the jiggle way that they look very good. This Dead or Alive 2 was later remastered for the original Xbox, and it looks a lot better, but it doesn't look nearly as it's not as improved as you would think, because Dead or Alive 2 is a very, very good looking game. It's a pretty good sounding game too, though Wanli is still really annoying. That's not important. So basically this game is a good fighting game. If you're tired of Soul Calibur, or if you don't like Soul Calibur as much because of the weapons, you'll like this game, because it's got really a diverse cast of characters. It's got a very good fighting system. It's got the destructible environments that can cause damage, which is really interesting, and a really cool thing that I wish more fighting games did, but... And basically, it's a very good fighting game. It's a very well-made fighting game. Dead or Alive 2 gets a score of 8 out of 10. It's very good. It's probably one of the top 10 or 20 games on the system, and the Dreamcast had a very good library. Next week we'll be reviewing a game that's not as good. We're going to talk about WWF Attitude. for the Dreamcast. Make sure to rate, comment, like, subscribe, follow on Facebook, Twitter, and all that stuff. Have a good day.